I want to bring in my next guest. He is a former U.S. ambassador to Canada and friend of the show. Bruce Heyman joins me now. Hi, Ambassador Heyman. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Vash.
I appreciate you making the time. I just want to jump off where what Paul was talking about there. I didn't have a chance to talk to you in the commercial break, but did you hear the remarks following the meeting?
I did. I heard all the remarks, but you know, it was something that brought me back. It brought me back to that early December cold day in 2016 when I escorted then Vice President Biden into Ottawa, and we sat down at that dinner, and I sat at the table with the Prime Minister and with then Vice President, and the language he used about Canada and the relationship and the values, same language that was there at that dinner. So this isn't something that was contrived for today. This is deep-seated, and he cares about Canada and Canadians, but now it is about getting to work. And I want to tell you, just a hats off to those people who served for the U.S. government in Canada during the last 4 years. I know it was hard. It was really difficult. And I know how hard you worked over the last, few weeks preparing for this. You should feel really good about where this relationship is, but you will have a lot of work ahead of you, as will the folks in the embassy in Washington for Canada. But this is, if you care about the U.S.-Canada relationship, you should go to bed and sleep well tonight. It's in good hands. And are there things where we don't converge on, things that we're going to have to work about? Vash, you and I have debated and discussed some number of these points, and we will going forward. But the reality is, this is about, and if you look at the talking points that were released this morning, there was one word that was used over and over again. It was shared. Shared values, shared history, shared vision, shared commitment. It was all throughout the entire document. And I know how hard everybody works to wordsmith every word, but that word came out over and over again. And that's what it's about. That's this relationship. And I'm really happy tonight.
Those remarks, those words were used quite frequently in what we heard from the Prime Minister and the President following the meeting. Lots of overarching topics or issues or themes that they could work together on, COVID being one, climate change, defense, for example. I think Paul had signaled, and he was right, an agreement to modernize NORAD, for example. And then I thought the comments at the end, and I just want to get your thoughts on the significance of them around China. We had really been watching to see if there would be something specific said about Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, who have been detained, Canadians detained now for more than 800 days. The president said, we will work together to secure their release. Not just we'll work to talk to China or we'll work on this, we'll work to secure their release. And he said that human beings are not bartering chips. Do you read that as a significant statement?
Very significant. First of all, I think it's important for those of us who are on either side of our shared border to recognize and understand the challenges we face. And don't think that if one or another makes a decision for a policy that we don't understand it, but to articulate it clearly in this first meeting, the challenge that Canada has faced over these last several years as a result of the holding of these two men inappropriately and should be released, but now with the help and voice of the President of the United States. I think that was really important and a highlight of today's meeting.
And then when it comes to some of the stuff that we've discussed in the past, as you mentioned, some of the irritants that have been there before and will continue to be there. The Prime Minister highlighted the idea of North American energy security. It was something pretty specific that he talked about. Obviously, a conversation about climate as well and the future of the energy sector and green energy. But he did talk about energy security. We've discussed Keystone. We know that appears to be a done deal. Your thoughts on other pipelines that the president is being pressed about now to express his lack of support, I guess you could say, or opposition to, following, for example, the governor in Michigan's lead on Line 5. Then there's also Line 3. Do you anticipate that we should expect more of the same? And I don't want to say they're not perfectly analogous pipelines. There's some different situations there. But do you expect the president to come out firmly in opposition of the projects that are happening there, or do you think there might be a big difference between them and Keystone?
So my experience working with then Vice President Biden, with then candidate for President Joe Biden, I'm not part of the administration now, but knowing him, it isn't about a flip of a switch of, okay, yes, we're going to focus on climate change, and yes, we're focusing on green and clean energy, but it doesn't mean that we're going to go there in the morning. The reality is, and he understands that, we're going to need fossil fuel for some extended period of time during this transition period. And we are going to need Canadian energy during this period of time. It's critical. It's a critical part of our supply. You are the largest supplier. I think you now supply more than almost everybody else combined of all the oil that we import. So oil coming in from Canada, the United States, is critical for our energy security. And so this is something that isn't a revolution. I think it's an evolution. We are moving to a cleaner fuel standard, but make no mistake about it, it's not going to happen in the morning. And I think he recognizes for U.S. national security, we need Canadian oil.
And in just more general terms, you spoke about your knowledge of the way in which the now president views the country, the way in which the embassy is a part of getting these meetings together. What happens now? Describe for us behind the scenes what might happen in the relationship, what people might be doing in that capacity.
So the president has laid a standard. He's put a stake in the ground. He says, look, I want work done here with Canada. And so now we also have cabinet members who have also had conversations with their ministerial counterparts. Now it's about directing their staffs. Okay, let's get together. Let's work in the embassies. Let's work in our various departments. And let's get some proposals on the table of which we can action item very quickly and put wins on the board for our two countries. I think that's where the president is. He seems to be like here and now. He's not like thinking I'm going to do all kinds of policies, many years into the future or a second term. He's trying to get work done right now. And I think you're going to see this bleed through the entire U.S. government and then mash up with Canada, because I think the Canadians want the same thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if some real productive things happen this year.
Okay. We're watching. Thanks, Ambassador. Good to have you with us as always. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Be well.
You too. Bruce Heyman was, of course, the U.S. Ambassador to Canada. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.